Good evening. Welcome to the book launch of Brent Meersman's new book, Reports Before Daybreak.
What this novel keeps doing is absolutely relocating you back in absolute brutal reality of what was happening at the time. But Brent, let's just go back a little bit about you going from primary coloured, which was an amazing roman I left, into where we are now. It's very much where you are situated yourself as a writer. But what was the inspiration for this particular intertwining of these ordinary lives in the great landscape of history?
Well, just on primary coloured, as you know, it was a roman à clef, and it was about the 2004 election and Patricia de Lille's campaign. And what happened with that book was that everything, I think you were talking about the novel and the difficulties, in that I think everything is so accessible now that all the unheard voices we have access to, they're on YouTube. People you can find out the most incredible stories. The reality is so present that what do you do with a novel? How do you write a novel now? How do you compete? You can't compete with reality. It's far more, comes up with throws curved balls and things that you could never even imagine. And we have access to all of that now through podcasts, through YouTube, through everything. So I think that the novel is this experimental form, and one's constantly reinventing it, and that's one of the things that I attempted. So I'm blurring. I know I'm not very good at answering your questions.
No, that's fine.
I'm blurring.
I'm not very good at answering we'll just run along together and they'll guide us.
I'm blurring fiction and fact all the time. I did that with the previous book. Everything that I made up, people thought was real, and everything that was real, people thought I'd made up. And then the 10 things that I did make up landed up turning out to be true, you know, within 4 or 5 years.
It must be quite an experience to go back, because I don't think many people have that opportunity and go through the media from 1961 right through to 1990, and have a look. I mean,
yeah, I went literally through every newspaper virtually and just selected headlines from those. So it was a long project. But it was, I think everybody in this room is quite comfortable, and I think with that kind of comfort it's very easy to just remember the good and easier to forget the bad. And going through those headlines is just how bad things were. We were Zimbabwe in the 1980s as far as
I think that is essential, because I mean, that thing about, as you said earlier, reality sort of washing over people in waves anchoring that.
But I've jotted down a couple of headlines here, which I just want to share with you, because it wasn't all a bloodbath. There was one here which is an appeal against a conviction for sunbathing in the nude at Sandy Bay will be heard before a full bench of the High Court on Monday. Like they had nothing better to do, you know. There was about video hire firms will now be able to rent out videos on Sundays, following a decision by the Supreme Court. And then there was this report which was about I think the biggest stay away in South Africa's history at that time, and it says, "Stay away. Warm baths now looks like a European town. It's lovely." And then my personal favorite, Iran may have nuclear bomb in 2 years. That was in 1984, 27 years ago. So, but my editor at the Man and Guardian, Nick Dawes, said it's still true. Well, just to give a sketch overall, is that the book primarily covers the period from 1978 to 1990. And it follows the trajectories of 5 characters. Zukizwa is the principal character. She is growing up in a township, in a shanty town outside of Cape Town, and wants to escape black servitude. Her opposite number is a rich white kid who has an establishment family, but against their wishes wants to become a human rights lawyer. His counterpart is a young working class lad who wants to become an artist. And whose brother goes to the SADF, is conscripted and lands up in Angola, while Zukizwa's brother joins in Mkontowezizwe. So that's the lie of the land. So you've got these 5 characters, and then I take them through. It's people who had their formative years or came of age, as I did, in the 1980s.